Everybody, Baruch Hashem, here we are on the eve of the Shabbat before Lag BaOmer. Baruch Hashem, we have this holy days coming one back to back, obviously Shabbat Kodesh, and after that we're going to Lag BaOmer. So we try to put together, B'ezrat Hashem, the connections of what we see today and what we talked about before, and last week's Parashah, Parashat Emor. We saw this incident that's brought down in the Torah, that there was a man who was born of an Egyptian father and a Jewish mother. The story was that in Egypt there was a Egyptian man who came home. Back then there was no electricity, what have you. He set his eyes on a Jewish woman who was married, and she thought that it's her husband, and she became pregnant by this Rasha Merusha, the Egyptian, and she had a child. And this child, later on, when they came out of Egypt, she wanted to, she gave birth to him, and he wanted to have he didn't know where to put his tent. Do we go with the father at that time, who was a goy, who was non-Jew, and so therefore he didn't know where to put his tent? Or do we go with the Israeli mother who was from the tribe of Dan? And it was back and forth, and they went to get judged, and the judgment was that he couldn't put his ohel, his dwelling place, in a certain place that he wanted to put. So therefore he came out and he, quote unquote, blessed Hashem, meaning the opposite, which is one of the biggest sins ever. He cursed. And this is where we start the beginning of this Parashah, this Shiur, that last week's Parashah. This is what he ended up with. What does this have to do with us today? Why is this mentioned in the Torah? What does this have to do with Lag BaOmer and the days between the holy days of Pesach and Shavuot, that we are mourning the death of 24,000 deaths of Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva, like we mentioned before? So we wanted to say that from Baruch Rosenbluth, who put this whole mahalach together, that we all know that we got the bracha from Yitzhak Avinu, that we have Kol Yaakov. All the power of the Jewish people are in the power of his speech. What comes out of his mouth is actually, that's what separates us from the animals. The animals and us, we're all the same thing, except that we have what's called the Neshama. A Neshama that Hashem was put into us, that allows us to talk and have intellect and to articulate and talk with each other and to do mitzvot, to learn Torah. That's our purpose in this world. Also the non-Jewish world, if they talk good things and they wouldn't be cursing around and they would use their mouths to say good things, that's also a big mitzvah for them. But especially the Jewish people have this power of speech by learning Torah. This is our purpose in this world. And since this son of the Egyptian, born out of a Jewish mother, messed up over here, so Moshe Rabbeinu came. What he should have done, he should have gone and asked Moshe Rabbeinu what to do. But he got angry and he couldn't control his himself, and he cursed. He cursed Hashem, chas v'shalom. And this is actually, we know that our sages tell us, he was a Gilgul, meaning reincarnation of none other than Cain, going back to the beginning of history. And Moshe Rabbeinu was a Gilgul of none other than Hevel. And over there also we see that they had a confrontation. It says over there, Vayomer Cain leHevel. They're outside and we were talking. We don't know what they were talking about. Rashi tells us they were talking about how Cain was jealous that his brother had the extra twin sister, that back then they could marry their sister because there was no one around, and he had two wives, and Cain wanted also two wives. So he got up and killed him with what? By biting Hevel to death. And that's why he had to come back in this Gilgul, in this reincarnation. And over here, Moshe Rabbeinu, the father, the Egyptian father, Moshe Rabbeinu, we know in the Torah says that he killed him with his mouth, by using his mouth of Kedusha, by saying Hashem's holy name, and the father got get rid of. But what about the son? Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to see if the son also, is he going to go into his father's footsteps and be a bad mouther, or he's going to be using his mouth also for good. Once he saw that he's also cursing Hashem. Hashem said that this one also did not reach the point that he had to reach to improve his speech, and he was stoned to death by the commandment of Hashem. But that's not the end of the story. We come down to the third reincarnation, and this is what has to do with Rabbi Shiur and Yochai. You know the famous story that Rabbi Shiur bar Yochai was sitting with other Rabbanim, Chachamim, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda, and himself, and they were talking about how the Romans, all these cities that they made, whatever they made. So Rabbi Yehuda was saying that although they made it for themselves, but the Jews, we also get qualities that we get to go on the roads, everything, although they did it for themselves, for their own purposes, whatever it was, but we also get benefits. Rabbi Yossi was quiet, but Rabbi Shiur bar Yochai says, yes, they did it, we get benefits also, but we have to go and see the foundations, why they did it, why they built all these things, in order to collect taxes from the Jews, in order to go to the houses of ill repute, basically everything against the will of Hashem. They didn't have the right intentions. And we know that there was a person there called Yehuda ben Gerim, and he went and talked about it in what he heard in front of his family, and the family eventually got to the Caesar, and they put Rabbi Shiur bar Yochai. He had to run away with his son for 13 years, and we all know what the story was over there. Now, Chazal tell us that this was the Gilgul. Rabbi Shiur bar Yochai came back from the Gilgul of Moshe Rabbeinu, and this person, Yehuda ben Gerim, was the Gilgul of that child who was the son of the Israeli woman and the Egyptian. And this time Hashem wanted to give him another chance in order to use his power of speech from bad to good. And he succeeded in some degree. We have another Gemara in Mod Katan Daf Tet that Tosaf brings down that this Yehuda ben Gerim was actually a big rabbi in this reincarnation. And there was a time when they were in the city of Rabbi Shiur bar Yochai, and before they wanted to leave, Rabbi Shiur bar Yochai told his son Rabbi Elazar to go get a bracha from them, because he saw that they worked on themselves and they got to a level of having the divine presence rest on them. So the bracha is very important. So he went to them and he wanted to get a bracha, and they start saying all these things that it seems the opposite of blessings. It sounded to him like curses. So he came to his father, Rabbi Shimon, and says, Rabbi Shimon saw that Rabbi Elazar he's upset. He was sad. He's like, why are you sad? He said, because everything that came out of their mouths was curses. And it made me very, very uneasy. So he said, what did they say? So he said all these things. We're not going to go into it right now. But he said everything they said, although it sounds like this, but actually it's all a blessing. And Rabbi Shimon found out that Rabbi Yehuda ben Gerim, in this reincarnation, although he's not 100% there yet, but he got enough of a degree of changing from bad-mouthing and cursing to going from his curses going into blessings. That's why after 13 years when he came out, it says over there that when he saw him, he looked at him and he had the power in order that make him into a pile of bones. But Tosfos over there said, he shouldn't say pile of bones. He looked at him and nach nafsheh. Nach nafsheh meaning that his soul left his body. And that's a kiss of death kind of way that only tzaddikim get. So we see from here that he finally got to the degree that he had to get to go from bad-mouthing, cursing to blessing. Okay, this is very fine and good, but what does that have to do with us? Let's go back a little bit, like we said, with what happened with Cain, what happened with the son of the Jewish woman and the son of and the non-Jewish father. What was the problem? And you have to see how this problem relates to us, if it's within us also. When Hashem told Cain, asked Cain, where is Hevel, your brother? Obviously Hashem knew. He was trying to get him to apologize and to be chozer b'tshuva. So what did he say? What did Cain say? The famous words, am I my brother's keeper? In other words, you're God. You see everything. Everything is in your hands. Why did you let me kill him? You were supposed to be watching him. So too, in the next reincarnation, the son of the Egyptian man and the Israeli mother, the son cursed Hashem. Why? Because he said, you should have been watching my mother in Egypt. Why did you let this Egyptian Russia to come and in the dark? She didn't know. My mother obviously didn't know that it was, she thought it was my father. But you could have stopped him. Why didn't you stop him? These are good questions for a fool. Because if you think about it, obviously God has created this world with reward and punishment. And he doesn't want to interfere in our choices. Because if he interferes, then this was going to be a world of good and bad, making choices between good and bad. It will just all be angels, and there will be no purpose for this world. And then one of the biggest purposes that we came to this world, in order to use our judgment to go with the way of the Torah and choose the good and walk away from the bad. Also the non-Jews, the Gentiles, they have the 7 commandments of the Noachites that they have to go with the good and stay away from the bad. But what did Cain do? What did this son of the Egyptian man do? Instead of blaming themselves, they blame God. They said, you should have been watching. But that's not true. Cain should have taken the blame and said, although Hashem, I should have thought about it, that if I'm going to kill my brother Hevel, then there's going to be consequences. And obviously you are going to let me do it because the way that a person wants to go, Hashem lets him. But in the end, he's going to get his reward or punishment. So too, by the son of the Jewish mother. Well, who was to blame over here? The mother. Why? Because it says the mother's name. And our sages tell us what the problem was. Shlomit bad divri. They say that she used to say shalom, hello to everybody. Hi there, to every man he sees in the street. The Egyptian used to come and say where the husband is. Oh, he's not here yet. Hello, how are you? Oh, things that we take for granted over here today. Don't be so, extremist. What if it's so man and woman can't talk and this and that? No! It's fire! When a woman goes and is friendly with other men, the end is going to be what happened to this Jewish mother with the Egyptian man. Bat divri. She was always talking. And we all know that Shlomo Melech, the wisest of all men, said that in a lot of talking, there's no way that you could avoid sin. And again, going back to the Jewish people, the power of speech is our biggest weapon. We could use it for good, to create worlds, and to make Hashem happy. On the other hand, we could destroy worlds. We could destroy people. And that's exactly why these days are so critical. The Talmid of Rabbi Akiva, we said before, on their level, when they were learning together, and somebody said a nice interpretation of something, he said, you could do better. What is that? That's not good enough. Power of the speech. Instead of saying, wow, what a beautiful chidush. That's such a nice, whatever he said, or husband and wife, they're talking to each other. Comes home with, the wife bought something. The husband puts her down. You could have bought the tomatoes could have been much better, nice looking. Say a good word first. In Hebrew we say lefargen. Compliment. But they didn't do that. And that's why we said last week they got the worst kind of death. They drowned in their own water and they got choked to death. Because where the power of speech comes out of the mouth, they use their mouth for the wrong things. Again, on their level, we can't judge them, but this is what our sages tell us. So what should we do? Who should we learn from? Well, let's go back and look at the other character. We just talked about Cain and all his reincarnations. Well, let's go talk about his brother Hevel. We said Hevel, Hevel. The word Hevel in Hebrew means the breath that is coming out of your mouth. The words that are coming out of your mouth. We say that all the world is standing on Hevel PM Shabbat Rabban. When the children are learning Torah, the words that are coming out of their mouths are killing Rishaim. They're doing it away with evil. That's why it's so important to send the kids to the right schools, to the right yeshivas from the beginning stages. Instead of sending them to public schools and letting them learn all this bad mouthing, cursing all the things they see all the time on TV. And they come and they want to be like this and they want to be like that rap star and this star, cursing 9 out of 10 words, F words coming out of the songs. This is where you send your kids. But if you send them to a Jewish proper school, obviously you also have to talk good at your own home, because most of the education comes from the home. But you have to be careful who the friends are, and yourselves also. What are you watching all the time? All this garbage that you're learning, this street language. When someone goes back, sometimes I go back and I hear these things like, how could people talk like this? Because when you're in an environment that you're not hearing these things, and you go into an environment and you're hearing these things, it's very strange to you. But if the person is coming out of the toilet, it smells like toilet. The smell is coming out of it, but they don't even know because they're in it. So we have to take upon ourselves to first start being careful the power of speech. What are we saying? We could kill or we could also build. That's Hevel. Come back, let's go to Moshe Rabbeinu, the next generation. Moshe Rabbeinu is the poster child for using his mouth in order to defend the Jewish people. He's the ultimate defense minister. When the Jewish people sinned with the golden calf and Hashem wanted to destroy them and make a new nation for Moshe Rabbeinu got up and says, not doing! If you're going to do this, you should erase my name, he said in the Sefer Torah. If you're going to do this, better 1,000 Moshes should fall down and not one hair from the Jewish people. Power of speech, of tefillah. That's Moshe Rabbeinu. That we have to pray to Hashem for our brothers and sisters that are far off to come back. Also, we have to use our power of speech to give hochacha. To warn people not to do this. If you love somebody and you see that they're doing something wrong and you let them do it, I don't want to get involved, then you mean the Rasha. You're going to be held accountable. You could have been said something to get him out of that garbage. Or not to say that, to teach him better. That's what Moshe Rabbeinu did. On one hand, on the other hand, when he prayed to Hashem, he said only good things about the Jewish people. That's what we got to do. And the final reincarnation, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Who's Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai? What's he specialized in? You know that he wrote the Zohar, he had the Yisurim in the cave. But more than that, every Shabbat, we have this beautiful song, Bar Yochai Ashrecha Shimshamta, that we say this song of Rabbi Shimon Lavi that he wrote 400 years ago about Bar Yochai. But it says over there, all these words about a Kohen Gadol, things that relates to a Kohen, that he was Moshech from the Shemen, from the oil of being anointed oil, and he's wearing the Urim Tumim, the clothing of the Kohen Gadol, and going to the Kodesh Kodashim. What does this have to do with Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai? As long as I know, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was a Yehudi Israel. He was not a Kohen. You know, we have 3 levels in Judaism. We have a Kohen, Levi, Israel. Israel can't be a Kohen. So why are you referring to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai as a Kohen? So Rambam already answers this question, also the Balaturim. That anybody who learns Torah and uses his mouth right and says the words of Torah, he could get to the level of the high priest, going into the Holy of Holies any second, not just once a year. Because that's the power we have. And that's what Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, he got to the ultimate. He brought himself to the level